consent agenda. Is there any items that any of the trustee members would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Do you want to address mine about the deal? Yeah, about it.
I don't know that it needs to pull. Okay. Is it normal when I went to try to have access to it? It has this, okay, it comes up, permissions requested, and it's acting like it's going to receive my profile data, collecting all my activity, and use the profile data and activity data.
So we actually did talk about that. So the chat. That is part of the way the SharePoint or the SharePoint file works. And we do understand your concern with that.
Yeah.
Since it is your personal email accounts, it does say it will track it. It tracks it in the app, and that's it. It only tracks it while you're in that shared file. When you come out, it doesn't track you any further. We did bring that, like I said, we brought it up to IT. What did he said? That's their general purpose, is to track where you click, and that's it. But once you log out of there, it is a policy of that actual application. It's not our policy, it's part of that application.
They can't see anything on the phone.
No personal data, just in there.
It is weird, honestly.
Yeah.
Basically, because I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. We did bring that up to him today, and he said it only tracks while you're in there. And as soon as you get out, it does not track any further.
I'm glad somebody read the fine print because I just clicked yes.
You don't get in trouble for that.
Yeah, I have more than once. So I'd like to make a motion that we approve items 1 through 9 of the consent agenda.
I have a question on item number 2.
Okay.
Okay.
It was in regards to reporting complaints. Is that an actual new one, or is that a repeat? Because it's the same as last month, basically. It seems to be an identical situation. I don't know if it's the same people.
This was a different person at that time. Yep, this was a different aide, as it says in there. It's a different CM than the one we previously discussed.
Is this the one that we want to come back? The same situation, the same exact thing. And so, did you think it was just the same? Well, I was wondering if it was a repeat from last month, and it was just put in there by accident and overlooked, or if it was an actual new situation. It's like I see where they were counseled and stuff, but I was like, it's an actual repeat issue.
We had one in July that has been addressed, and then this one in August. Yes, with a different person. Correct.
Since we brought that up, is that something that's in the file that we say, hey, let's, pull that person in the file? Is that what we do?
Since Nick and I taken over, yes, ma'am. It is in the personnel file.
Would
Or
it be-
the HR file, not the
would it
personnel file.
be possible at the end of the reported complaint to put August 2023? That way, just reading these, that we would know,
It's different.
yeah, it's a different complaint.
Absolutely.
And my other question is kind of along the same deal. It says that there's a note of training with this particular staff member. So I assume that has been addressed at the HR level, because you can't have a patient or a person, you can't go into the patient's room.
Yes.
That's just not practical.
Yes, that has been addressed. Yeah.
That was the other question. Can you explain that a little further? What do you mean, the triangle? Well, see, if you're working the floor, okay, if you're my patient and I'm the nurse on the floor, and your call light goes off, but I can't go in your room, how
Yeah.
practical is that? And everybody else is at lunch on break or whatever, and I'm the one who's tending the floor. That doesn't happen all the time, but it does
It
happen.
can happen,
And
absolutely.
you need help going to the restroom, but now I'm not allowed in your room, that's not practical. You
This time, if we can call for a vote, please.
Yes. Ford?
Yes.
Yes. Webb?
Okay, we approved the consent agenda. Moving on to financial statement, which is item number 10. Laura, I apologize. Does anybody have any comments from the gallery? Okay, moving on to item number 10, September financial report.
Nice to see everyone again. Unfortunately, got stuff for me today, so I can't do this weekend. But before we go, I wanted to introduce y'all to Adrian.
Hi.
She's our new finance director, and his big shoes to fill. I don't love her to death, but already. But I'll let Adrian tell you a little bit about herself, who I've been very excited to find.
Well, I am back in this area of Oklahoma, so I actually grew up in Hollis, so I'm very familiar with Mangum. I spent my whole childhood coming here to Dr. Lively to get my teeth cleaned, so it feels good to be back in this part of Oklahoma. I graduated from Southwestern in 2015 with an accounting and finance degree, and my husband and I lived in Tulsa for a little bit as I was an auditor, and then I've been at the Woodward Hospital for the last 6 years as a controller, so now that I'm with Dennis, it's all great. So it's nice to meet you all. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. Excited to have you.
We're very happy to have Adrian. So we're doing the transition piece and working through everything. So she's trying to go as quickly as she can. And in the interim, I'm trying to help out. So
Are you Shawnee or are you living down here in Hollis? I live in Woodbury. Oh, okay.
we're trying to make sure our finance directors are on site more often, at least 2 or 3 times a month. She's already been on site a couple of times, met the staff and everything else, and it's just such a great rewarding. I grew up when I was on site and worked most of my career there, so you get so much out of being that. So we want to emphasize that, and that's been a point of emphasis for Godwin, from Godwin as well, to be here physically. What I talked to last time is something that I have brought and wanted to make sure I got to the board back at this time in advance. And this is a one-page synopsis. So you still have all of your financial pages that you've always received in the past and everything else. If you have any questions, stop me. But the first page is just how I look at something from an analytical perspective as a CPA and doing healthcare for so many years. And we have pushed this out, and we've been doing this at all of our facilities because it's easy to get buried in weeds in 400 pages. So this is a one-page, top level stuff, and I'm going to walk you through it. Does everybody have the page I'm referring to?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to start with average daily census, and it's abbreviated with ADC, but that's very important for us. In the month of September, we had one of our lower months, 8.5. But for the year, we were at 12.4 year to date. Last year, we finished under 10. So it's really important to monitor your average daily census every month, and that's why we spend so much time. We actually do look at it daily. The other important piece on understanding critical access hospitals is your payer mix. And that's why I've identified and broken it out between acute and between swing bed. The acute piece is something that we have no control over. Most of these come through the ER. We're here to take care of patients. But it's important to be following that and monitoring that because the reality is Medicare is our best payer. And everyone else doesn't pay us even close to what we do pay on Medicare. So you have to take care of a Blue Cross patient just like you do anybody else. But for the hospital, financially speaking, we just don't get paid anything remotely close to what we get paid by Medicare. And that's just the reality of it. So that's why we look at that from a financial perspective. The first line that I always, and we look through is, okay, how do we do for the month? So for the month of, the current month of September, we lost 62,000. Year to date, we've averaged on the far right column about 166,000, 165,979. So how are we doing compared to year to date? We're 104,000 better in September than we have been averaging. And that's, last month we were better than what we've been averaging as well. So net income or operating margin has been better for the last couple of months. Net revenue is always going to be a main focus. On average, this hospital has averaged $1 million, $370,000 a month, so that's what we average. For the current month, September, we had $1,450,000, so we were 80,000 to the plus for September, so we had a good net revenue month. We had 62,000 the preceding month, so both of those last 2 months are at least that we're trending in the right way for net revenue. Operating expenses, this hospital spends about $1,552,000 a month on average. That's what our operating expenses are. We were actually slightly below, so we did a pretty good job of managing our costs. Part of that was because our census was down as well, but we were relatively flat there. The important piece too is we always look at is what is our net revenue as a percent of operating expenses, and you'll notice that these are always, again, less than 100%. And that's because Medicare is our best payer. They don't even allow all costs, and they don't even pay us 100% of the allowed costs. So that's why you're always going to see a percentage there somewhere close or less than 100. We hope to get it as close to 90 or 95 in that area, but it's always going to be less than 100%. The key factor that we also look at in September is the average operating expenses per patient day. We were at 5,996. Year to date, we've been at 4,143. So why were operating expenses per patient day so high? It's because our patient days were so low for the month of September, but our costs were relatively flat, the same. So if you have an increase in your patient days and your costs are constant, you're going to have a decrease in your cost per day, vice versa. Year to date, we've been at 4,900. Is what we finished last year. So we were at 4,143 per patient day, and we were at 4,895 last year in the year. Why is that important? Why, the fact that we're less, because when we are being paid less, and our costs are less per patient day than what they were last year, then there's a chance that Medicare is overpaying us right now. And that's why we've been trying to reserve as much money as we can, month after month after month. Because our costs per patient day, we're getting paid more. We're getting paid up here, and our costs are down here. So financially, we try to track these things and reserve as much as we can so that we don't have a huge payable.
What is our current reserve?
Our current reserve, well, we have about $1.6 million in total cash, and I'll get to that piece because I do want to talk about the Medicare payable that I mentioned last time and where we are, and can recap that piece. And again, please feel free to ask me any questions you can't think of, and I'll try to answer them. And if I don't know the answer, I'll give them. One of the other things we look at, and we've talked about, you've heard us talk about, is days cash on hand. That's very important, especially for these small hospitals, to monitor throughout the year. And how is that calculated? So it's basically just taking your operating expenses by your calendar day. So you can look at all three columns, and they're really consistent. It costs this hospital about $51,000 a calendar day to operate. I mean, that makes me feel pretty good about our financial statements because it's also consistent there as well. We had unrestricted about $850,000 in September, and counting our restricted, we have about $1.6 million, Carson. So $1,663,000. You just take that, your cash, and divide it by your operating expenses, and that's how you arrive at days cash on hand. So when I say we have 32, that's how it's calculated. What you want to try to keep, at minimum, we try to keep at least 10 days cash on hand for all of our facilities, at least. If we can do more, we want to try to do more as well. The critical piece, and I'm going to talk about this more in detail, but after people ask me whatever questions, but I'm going to come back and look at the talk to you about the Medicare payable and receivable. Those numbers represent all years, so it's both the prior years that we still have on our books as well as the current year. But that's something we monitor throughout. The accrued liabilities and the accounts receivable net are two numbers we want to always look at every month as well to see where those are trending. Net AR is where you're more likely to have the biggest blow up, and that's how much you think you're going to collect. And so it's important to look at that number every single month and also compare it to what your census was. So if I was looking at my number in September and it's $1,004,000, it's less than it was the prior month, why would that be? Well, I had an average daily census of 8.5, and I had been running at 12.4, so I'm expecting it to be about 1.4 or less than it was. If it was a lot higher, then I would be worried that we overstated our payoff, what we think we're going to collect, and we've overstated our revenue. So having these things in front of you is trying to get to the meat and potatoes of the financial statements so that you can see it every day. You know, we did these financial statements and we do those trends so they stick out like a sore thumb. So you can see, wow, what happened in March and what happened in September, and it's right there in front of you on one page. And that's kind of what this is, taking it even another step to look at the big picture and make sure that we don't lose sight of these, because these are really critical things to monitor, and it's something that our team does a lot to make sure we try to monitor that. What we can't always do is prevent mistakes or errors. But for the most part, we certainly try to analyze everything throughout the year and be as proactive in addressing things as we can. And the last piece I have at the bottom is, I know that cohesive has always been an important thing. It's on your AP aging and things that we overlook. So I thought, well, we'll put that on the front page, and you can see that as well without having to thumb through things and add them yourself. And you'll see the note payable loan is reflected down there, and that's the payment we made on that. That we made every month. But that is the one page about as fast as I can talk. Financial. Yes, ma'am. Sure. 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 Cohesive had, when we took over and started managing this facility, and most of the people know this, there was some huge Medicare debt, $9 million. So we haven't been able to pay, and we're the last payer to get paid last. It's just the way it is. And you have to pay all your local vendors. You try to pay everybody else current. Well, when you get outside of a year that you owe someone, then there's a point where you need to convert it to, and what we've done is try to convert it to a loan so that we pay it over time, because you want everything to be paid if you don't possibly can, unless it's in a note within 1 year. So that's the basis of that, is that it accumulated to that amount. You don't want it to go out to 2 or 3 years, because you're claiming these things under the policy. And now, I will tell you, there's another piece that I've already calculated. We actually will, before the year's over, I've calculated the imputed interest, and we actually have to make some entries to recognize some gains, some other things. But I don't want to get into the accounting jargon. That is the basis of that. So it's AP that has built up over time, and it's converted to income. Great question. Now, does anybody else want, because I do want to spend some time talking about the Medicare payable and everything. So I want to make sure I address any question related to that.
Just one quick question before we move there. On $51,000 cost per calendar day, does that include repayment on loans and things like that, or is that just keeping the lights on, keeping lights on, keeping staff paid?
You're exactly right.
Okay.
It doesn't include depreciation, because that's not a cash item. But it does include interest expense, but it doesn't include principal payment.
Okay.
Yes.
I noticed that the cohesive staffing solution, it says payments only, it's on there 3 different times. Is that 3 different staffing contracts? Is that different levels of staff that was provided?
I think it's invoices for those particular dates. It looks like for different weeks, so usually you're invoiced every week, so I think it's for that week. That's correct.
Oh, debt? Because outside it says whole debt, and then it's got, but it does have the different things. So I was just curious.
That's a great, it's a good question. I never really understood the times of this, because it's what you think you're going to pay, right? In the future, at some point in time, it's not going to pay. So we took Andrew's last schedule and we tried to do what we thought was best we could with things that we had. He said, I haven't adjusted it whatsoever. But we will need to look at that and find out what that is, because I don't know what to find out. So that was from the schedule that she was done last. but I'll find out for sure.
I had a question on some of the same things she's talking about. And I was the recipient of one of these repayments, but mine was $30. What in the world went on that people got money back?
If you're on something where you get patient refund, it's usually because what happens, we have to go through a process of, okay, estimating patient payments and what they're gonna owe. And so if the insurance covered it or we got paid more, then we have to refund the money to the patient. So that happens throughout. I will tell you this, even as a patient, hospital bills are the most complicated things to figure out. Even if it's your own. It is. And they really are.
Do they come out to do patient refunds very early?
Yes.
A lot of places, you know, hold on.
Well, you're supposed,
Forever and ever.
nah, that's not a correct policy. As a matter of fact, there's,
I've seen this before, though. This is the first time I've noticed.
there are requirements that you are supposed to do that.
Oh, I sign refund checks once a month.
Every single,
Like my hand aches every time.
Yeah.
It hurt. Well, not just the repayment, just the sign. Yeah, spending the money hurts.
well, there's also, you have to realize that you're getting multiple things done at the same time as a race to another claim first. So some of the things, they don't know what order your insurance process, and if you met your deductible by that time, then you're the person who was smart for holding out, because you got paid.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, well, I'm excited for this next portion.
okay,
I'm hoping for some good news.
well, I'm gonna tell you, sometimes you get a problem thrown on you, and your answer is, how do I fix it? I can't change it.
Yeah.
Okay, so in 2022, and the important thing is how do we get here? In 2022, they did every 8 months we do an IRR, okay? And that is an estimate of here's what we've been paid throughout the year, what do we think Medicare owes us, and we've been using DKD/Orbis now to do our cost reports every year. They did the 8-month IRR. They made three mistakes that were made, and they overstated the 8-month IRR. We got overpaid, and we got overpaid in January for 2022, and that's when we ended up having to pay back money, which we did. We paid back $831,000 plus another $37,000, so almost $900,000 for FY22 because we were overpaid. There were three areas that I can go into if you want to. One was just basically understating the patient pay and something. There was an error that they made on ER related to charges, and they overstated our cost of charge ratio. We got overpaid. The problem that happens when those mistakes are made is that you not only got overpaid for that year, you're getting overpaid throughout the year of this current year. And you're not following the cost report, which we do to the 5 months after you're in. So it's May 25th. So we not only got paid overpaid for that period of time, but we also got overpaid this year. So all the money that I was telling you about before that we reserved, and thankfully we still have reserved a lot, okay? But we would have had over $1 million even more reserved, period, at this time. Well, as a matter of fact, probably about 1.3, 1.2. Would that have been hard? Well, your 8-month IRR, you don't have a really short period of time to actually impact those pieces. You get 5 months of your cost report, like I said, but you only have really a few weeks to do that. We do a monthly, and we actually have a template that we're using even now to estimate these, and I've used it for this current year. It gets us even more accurate than what we've been before, but there are certain things that wouldn't have got. So we have put some things in place to try to fix that from recurring, and we're putting together, we've got some things that we've compiled also that better analyzes what was submitted for the 8 months, because even if you couldn't change it in a short period of time, there's a period of time, you can at least reserve for it if you got something after that. So we put some really good things, I think, in place to prevent that. The other thing is sometimes you have something that's never that's never happened in 4 years, almost 4 years that I've known that piece. So we've done a really good job about that, and we do things a month, every other month. But there are certain things that I don't know what you put in place that you just sometimes can't catch, especially if you didn't do them yourself. On that part. And our reimbursement team, not to brag on them, but I will tell you this, they have argued and gotten back for our facilities by over $1 million collectively of what we would have had to pay back. So they've done a tremendous job, and I'm pretty proud of what they've done.
So where do we estimate that we will have to look at?
So, when we did our report, we have 2,077,000.
Okay.
So it's like less than 2.3 million is what we think. Now, again, to save cash, but we're paying $86,000 a month right now. That goes away in March. And if we had to go and right now, so what we do is go and apply for a DRS loan for this. It would be about $68,000 if I can calculate a month.
For the full 2 million, or are we doing the different?
If we had to do 2.1 million right now,
Okay.
it would be about 68,000. I got the actual calculations, and I've done it. So you can get rid of 86,000. As a matter of fact, we can get rid of that today.
Yeah, with part of our cash reserve, right?
Part of our cash reserve.
Okay.
And you can free up 86, and then you only have 68. But you also have a short period of time where you're only going to have to pay the 86, which buys even more time, and that is between now and March, because by the time Novitas gets this, they'll probably sometime in November say, okay, here's what you now owe us. Now, some time to that. That's why I'm estimating a little. I actually estimated more than 2 million, I think it's 2,077,000. Because some days have passed since August, and so those payments say, okay, it's 2.1 or it's 2.1. But the point is that the longer we have and we retain all our cash, the more we'll know for certain. And in November, we only have to pay off, here, I've got the number. If we paid it off today, the current one, to free up 86,000, we owe 418,000. I can tell you right now, and we could pay that out of cash. I think I know it's in the 300s next month.
Hey, this money that you speak of that's been put back, what account is that in?
It's in that, there's two bank accounts, it's in the second bank account.
Okay, so one being where?
Uh,
Both here?
Oh, yeah,
Okay, so they're both?
they're both Mangum Bank, yeah, not to my, yes, ma'am. Let's see, okay, here we go, all right, 418,000, basically 538 is the payoff today. Next month, the payoff is about 36,000. Okay. So, my whole point in saying this is, there's two things that are going to happen. One, we're going to drop our rate a little bit, so I've already prepared for that. Okay. And so, and the other piece is, okay, we know that we're going to have more. So, if we're going to meet, I would probably wait and see how this plays out, see what the final Novitas letter comes back and says, apply for the DRS loan, and then at that time, which would be November or December, we make a decision and say, we're going to pay off. And then it would be out in December, it would be down to 253,000. And then they're saying, okay, we'll pay it back off at that time. We only have 60,000.
Will we still get the ER less loan at 10%, or will it be
It's
higher?
gonna be right now, I'm back in the max rate of 11.5%.
Okay, well, that's still better than I
My
thought.
number, that's the max. Yeah, but it's, who wants to make money at that? But I'm
Yeah.
trying to do two things. And that is, one, protect the cost of the cash position. The reality is too, if we wouldn't have paid down as much AP as we paid on, paying on that. So,
Well, how about we tighten the budget and quit spending a lot in other areas, and then after that, like in your own personal?
yeah, I mean, I will tell you, in the areas that we focus on, and think about it, for us, the areas to focus on in our budget, which is important in the moment, is the ones we have the least medical utilization. You know, that's where you look, you don't look at research. You know, that's the last place I would ever look to save a dollar, because nursing is one of the best, most highly reimbursed. If you look at the payer mix that I was showing you before, it's almost all Medicare, Medicare managed care. So I'm not looking to minimize those costs. I'm looking at all my other areas where there's not as much Medicare utilization. There's more maybe Medicare ER. ER has usually about 25% Medicare utilization. So if there's an opportunity to cut costs or reduce costs, that's an area that we try to focus on. I will tell you, it's challenging on the right places and the right pay, but yes, we are always, but we also want to work, you know, that saying, you work hard, you can work smart. We also want to make sure you focus on areas where it's actually going to come back and there's a return on what you're looking at. So Cheryl, to answer your questions, yeah, we look at every department, we look at the Medicare revenue to see these, the ones that have the least amount, is when we try to focus and see if there's an opportunity to reduce costs.
So excessive nursing is somehow helping bring the cost down?
Well, what I'm saying is this, okay, most of our nursing costs, okay, is reimbursed, is in an area where it's almost 100% Medicare.
But it's not doesn't reflect the hospital.
Yeah, it's the most highly reimbursed cost. So it's kind of like, okay, if I gotta spend $100,000 over here or $100,000 over here, okay, well, I'm gonna spend it on nursing and med surg before probably any other place, because I'm gonna get more of that reimbursed than just about any other place in the hospital.
I guess in hospital mind, it just doesn't make sense if you spend the $90 just to try to save a few bucks on a different hospital. So, especially when you're talking millions.
Well, you don't want, no one wants to spend more cost than what they feel like it entails to them. I mean, everybody's trying to save. I'm just saying, where would I target my cost? Well, I'm going to target where my return, whatever I cost, has the most benefit. And it has the most benefit in the areas where there's the least amount of Medicare.
You're saying that the one that's least reimbursed is the R, as far as like Medicare, some reimbursement 25%.
Well, it's for the most least amount of utilization in the United States. So that's what you're looking at. Where's my least amount of the payer mix is that you're saying before, those are really critical for times of critical. There are some rules, and I can say them all through, but I don't want to waste your time. But, you know, it's kind of, I am right, it's small. You know, providers are the least reimbursed in scans. You know, who would ever like that?
Well, and then you have to think that the ER, D is one of, if not the most important, service for the community.
Most definitely. And it feeds the hospital.
Yes, I was really surprised at the difference in the payer mix between acute and, I mean, I know saying, you know, that they probably are, but I was really shocked at the payer mix. Yeah. I mean, years ago, when I was involved in the hospital, it was 89, 90, it was really high.
For Medicare, if you sign it.
We weren't critical access, but I know it was really high.
Well, you know, the other, but I'm fine. You know, at the end of the day, these just take care of people. And what I have is, sometimes I kind of feel horribly talking about finance, because that's not the mission. The mission is to take care of people, but you gotta make sure you exist.
Well,
You
yeah,
have to do that.
what you do allows us to care.
We're
for
trying,
people.
yeah, but it is the most complicated. The healthcare accounting in general is complicated, but it is by far the most complicated. And it's, you know, it's just counterintuitive the way you mind works. It just is.
It's a really, really stupid question.
Yeah.
Okay. The government overpaid us, right? Because our costs were too low. Should we be spending money in other areas cost up to get safe one?
Well, the government over, what we should, what we do in those times, one, and what I feel that, what I'm saying, what I'm saying is, you're recovering costs for patients, you're recovering the necessary costs, you have a nursing staff ratio of 5 to 1 or whatever. That's what you're doing throughout the day. You kind of have to just follow that. And so the point is that if our census is high, and which dropped our cost per day on the phone, what we should be doing is restrict saving that money because we know we may have to pay it back. Okay? We do all the steps to do that. We get films, we do monitor, we do all these steps, but sometimes we make a mistake or mistake is made in cash. Those things happen. So to answer your question, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, I think we just spend the cost on what you feel is necessary to take care of patients, you know, no matter what it is. And I've never told that, the patient safety always come first to me.
Yeah.
So I've never told the nurse or anyone clinically how much money to spend on this or whatever. They know what their patients need a lot more than I do. I'm not a doctor either, so.
So you're not buying Q-tips at Dollar General?
That, well, things that we can use, right? Well, the 340B program, again, is a perfect example of what you're trying to do. Those strategies that help offset that because you are buying things for pennies on the dollar. And those are the things that we have been successful in growing with this program. We're trying to grow it here as much as we have. Some of our other facilities have really taken off, and we're trying to do that here as well. I know things are always a challenge. We've got a lot of people looking for it, and we've got to have it. Anyway, anything else? All right. Now, you're going to enjoy April a lot more. I'm sorry.
Feel bad for her. She's gonna get held Andrea for about a year. Okay, moving on to next item, item number 11.
So this is a license lease agreement for Dragon at the Clinic. We, as you know, Kenna's gonna be there every Tuesday now, to see patients, and you gotta have a license per provider. So we gotta add a license, and since this was a 36-month contract, we had agreed for it. So that's what this is. As you can tell, it's only $79 a month, but it will remain in effect for 36 months. Now, if Kenna, say something happens, we get a full-time provider, we can transfer that license to a different provider. It's not registered specifically to her.
So it's just per body, not.
Yep, we just have to change it. Yep.
Maybe we need to do whatever we can to keep her to choose patients.
Yes, she is.
I've heard a lot of, I've actually gone through there myself, but I've heard a lot of positive comments about her out in the community, so she's a pure asset for all of us. I'll make a motion that we approve this.
I'd like to second that motion. If we may call for a vote, please.
Lively,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Mangum,
Yes.
Albert,
Yes.
Rush,
Yes.
Moving on to item number 12. Discussion and possible action to approve a Mangum facility credit card.
So I know we talked about last board meeting, go ahead and pursue different credit cards. So I put in your packet 3 different vendors that we went with. One, we went with a local vendor, Cattleman's Visa credit card. It's not directly through them, but they're the ones that we'd be going through. As you can tell on that one, it is, you pay at the end of the month. You have to settle it up every month. There are late fees that will apply if the balance is not paid with an interest of 27.24. Just your balance has to be paid full. If you charge $1,000 on it, you got to pay $1,000 at the end of the month. That's that one. And then we went with Capital One, the Quicksilver card, no annual fee, does allow rewards. Again, it's going to have a 0% interest for 15 months and then 19 to 29.99. We all know where that's going to be. gonna be 19, it's gonna be 29, because that's what everybody's is. And then the last one, we did throw Wells Fargo in just because they're a bigger bank. They have this, 0% interest for 12 months, and then their annual percentage rate is a little bit higher than Capital One, from 19.99 to 20.29 to 29.99. So that's the three vendors that I brought. If y'all wanted a different vendor, we can get a different vendor for that. We don't. Actually, Dennis Capital One's what, I mean,
That sounded smarter to me.
That's the one I was in favor. I was gonna just make the motion for Capital
Like,
One
I'm
too.
not a financial expert, but it seems to be a better option.
okay, yeah, okay, that works for me.
But who will be our signatures on the card?
It will be, later, that was in here, yes, the policy to,
Okay, cool.
so.
Yeah, it's after the
Mhm.
information packet
Yes,
policy for.
Oh, cool.
senators on there.
Perfect. I make a motion that we approve the Capital One credit card. Okay, if we may call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, moving on to, the item number 13, discussion possible action to approve the CPSI service agreement.
so with this service agreement, we were gonna bring it last month, but we had to finalize some, we had some concerns with it initially because the initial report we got was, it was gonna be an additional $13,950 on top of our $13,436. It is not. So what this service agreement is gonna do, it's gonna be for a year, and it will give us access to all updates. Currently, with the 13,436, we don't have access to certain aspects of CPSI, like the communication center, faxage. Couldn't do faxes without a credit card. Now we're gonna have a credit card, so we can do the faxage where we can fax directly from the electronic health record. This takes the place of the 13,436, so it's only actually an increase of $414 over the old agreement. So that's what that'll take the place of. Again, it gives us a lot more access. Any updates that come out, this will give this to us. And if we get a new medication dispensing unit or any interfaces with this agreement, we get a $10,000 credit to any interface. So they'll interface up to $10,000 free of charge, and then anything after $10,000 we are responsible for. So that's what this would do.
We may call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, moving on to item number 14, discussion possible actions to approve the removal of 4 metal trailers on the property.
So we have 4 metal semi-truck trailers on the northeast side of the facility, over by where the old MRI truck used to be, that Plant Ops used to store extra equipment in. They no longer have to utilize that for storage because the use of the annex and other areas, they're breaking down, they're broke. Their floors are falling out, they can get rats in them, so I won't store anything in them. So we're wanting to know if y'all mind if we have those removed at whoever comes to pick them up at their cost. Not at facility cost. We're not gonna pay to have them moved. Somebody will have to come move them and incur the cost.
Those are storage units, like the storage buildings?
No, they're semi-truck trailers.
That
Yeah.
were utilized as storage.
Yeah, they're old trailers. They're probably from the 70s, 80s. Mark already has talked to some people.
Yeah, they're worth money.
Yeah.
I
The
mean,
floors
probably
are
worth
wooden
about
in these, that's how
2,000.
old they are. So, I mean, if they fall apart when they move them, they gotta pick it up. We're not gonna incur any cost. That's one of the stipulations I told, people to have these removed.
Okay. We can call for a vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to item number 15, discussion possible action to grant view-only access to the Mangum operating ARPA accounts with Sovereign Bank for Adrian,
Browning.
Brown, okay, Andrea Brown. That. We may call for a vote.
Yes.
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 Okay, discussion of possible action to establish a contract for the professional services of Surfside Public Accountant, the auditor for financial compliance audits for the fiscal year 2018, 19, 20, 21, and 22 for the Mangum Regional Hospital and Mangum Regional Medical Center managed by Cohesive Management and Consulting LLC. The last updated board received was November 22, wherein the board was advised that the audit would soon be done. These audits are performed in accordance with general accepted standards of auditing standards set forth by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The standards for the physical audits and set forth the public audits. Corey, do I really have to finish this? Issued by the Comptroller, I hate you, General of the United States, and audit requirements of Title II Code of Federal Regulations, Part 200, Uniform Administrative Requirements, Cost Principles, and Audit Requirements for Federal Awards, uniform guidance, including any future changes or replacement of these requirements are acceptable or applicable to the audit period in question. The completion and status is required for the City of Mangum's annual audit to be completed.
So I read through that and back to the emails. I saw 2018, 2019. So I don't know about those fiscal years or even 2020. For 2021, the engagement letter that was signed was with CLA, who's in Texas. They're doing the audit, and we've been following up with them every month for FY 21 because the single audit is required for all of our facilities. And so that piece I'm familiar with, and we've been in communication with them throughout. As a matter of fact, even as early as today, we're following up. And Andrea left. She had sent us her open item list and where she was with that audit, and she followed up. But 2018, it's like 2019 and 2020, that one I don't know about the history or what was needed there, so I can't really attest to it. So the last one I remember even the same, I think was like 2017 or something. So I don't know the history is what I'm trying to say.
But we don't have one, now, you know that much? There's
To
not
my knowledge, I've never seen one for 2018 or 2019 or any of those. I haven't even seen a final one for 2017.
17 was done. That's been followed with the state audit. REPW did that.
Is that the last? That's the only one that I remember anybody even mentioning. And I saw the email, and so Andrea mentioned that 2018 and 2019, those other years were.
Yeah, last update the board got is that we're basically gonna do some sort of financial statement audit to get caught up. And then we're going to
Okay.
make sure we got on the schedule of that. That was the last we got. Because this comes up every year within the city of Mangum, because this hospital is a component of the city, we basically get a item on the city's agenda. And we always have to say that because of this year lines up differently, that it'll be submitted later on. Please never follow these.
I do know that when I spoke to BKD, what was communicated to me, and I spoke directly with Kevin Gore, this again was back in, I think, 21. Long story short, what he said to me directly is, because I think that there were two hospitals, so I think this was one of them. And he said that he ran it up to what happened also, just so you're aware, when COVID hit, is, well, and all these single audits and all this money was dispersed, now everybody all over the country had an audit, and a lot of people, they were so far back behind. And I spoke with one of our auditors, we use PYA for some of our facilities in international firms. And, spoke with Matt Stewart, even on the way up here, on another matter that we talked about this one as well, and it was going to address. And he said that, you know, to even find someone to go back that far would be challenging. And it wouldn't just be the normal fees, it would be a premium, on the fees as well. So
So
we,
it's not required anywhere, I mean, like a school, you come in, they're audited every single year. So this is nowhere, just receiving federal funding and all this, you don't.
the single audit is for 2021, because it was over 675,000. But if you're saying that regardless of that, this was required every year, then what we need to do is try to get that done. They'll go back and they won't do a financial statement audit, but they'll probably do a balance sheet audit unless we need that specifically. I can go get quotes and everything else.
But basically, state law requires, since it is a component of the state law requires it to be audited. This is a conversation I've had lots of times. We either need to do an AEP, you know, the recall procedures, which is a state auditor standard, or a full-blown audit. If we prefer a full-blown audit, if we need to do an AEP for those years, that's fine. But I've had auditors that had to come in and do that. I represented a town that had been audited several years, and she came in at an AEP for, you know, for 3 years to 4 years to get caught up. So it needs to happen. And I know we've had this conversation. I know we found the YouTube video, we could probably play the YouTube video to show that we've had this conversation multiple times. We had one spring, when Rodney was on the city council, we had this conversation. And this isn't new information, it's just, we kind of let that slide. And again, the city's audit's coming up again, and we got the same questions about ours, and the city keeps getting a blemish because this hospital's not doing its part of it. So it's just something that needs to be done on a yearly basis. And we even changed our fiscal year to align with the calendar year instead of the state fiscal year to make it easier on y'all. And it's just, I could have, and again, we got emails, we've had conversations, and it again needs to happen. Yeah, just.
Well, we know the 21
Well, it has to happen.
right, we know the 21 is happening for, and 22, and
Yeah.
23 will happen. So what I need to do is I need to go back and find someone to do 18 and 19, and,
Well, would you have to do that, or should that be the city?
I think it'd be hospital.
It would have to be the hospital, right?
Yeah, and I can go get quotes and everything else for you, and we can get whatever it is we need to have done, we'll get it done. But,
Have that on next time. Well, I'm gonna keep this, I've already talked to the city clerk, and this is gonna be on it until we get this thing all out. So it's gonna be something that we'll talk about. Because the thing is since we're a government on hospital, everybody here enjoys qualified immunity in the government workplace, which is awesome to have, you know, because it means that there's a certain procedure that we're in lawsuits and stuff like that. But if we don't do our audits every year, we lose that protection. So it's a huge liability issue.
But isn't like some of these other cities, like your other hospitals, city-owned hospitals like the Huska as well? And
Huskies have an audit every year since I've got here.
but why
Ceilings
haven't
have an audit every year since I've been here, but others haven't. Well, if you think about it, usually there's a reason why. And they're not all technically set up the same way, so that might be one. But another one is that you need an audit. Well, usually it's to go out and borrow money, you know, or shareholders, publicly traded. So unless you're going to buy, you know, you can borrow money, or your position to borrow money, that's one reason. So we've got some facilities do need to find, get some cost and all of those together and just get it checked off the list, period. And so,
No, I know audit itself can't be.
no, okay.
I get that.
Okay, but we
My question is, can you find someone that we can approve next time?
I'm gonna do my, I'll do my, I've already spoken with CLA, see what they do, I'll see, I will speak to CLA first and talk to them. They probably know the sense, because they're already doing it. So maybe they have an easier opportunity to get back in my line. I also don't know what papers even exist.
Well, in my concern is exactly what you already said, while being on city council for 4 years, every single time this came up, we would always get hit on the audit decision.
But don't we have to do a tax return?
You don't have to do it right now. So process, and then you have to do it.
So basically, we're Title 60 trust, and state law, Title 60, Section 180.1 basically states, any public trust that has assets greater than $50,000 has to be audited within 30 days of the close of each fiscal year. 30 days? That's what it has to start.
Oh, sorry.
So that's all I'm saying.
That's been in violation for a long time.
Yeah, that's the state law. I mean, that's, so I'm not saying we just need to do it because I think we need to.
Well, that answers the question.
That's the state law. And the reason why it wasn't done before, prior to 2017, is because we didn't operate the hospital, as Kelly could recall. We owned nothing.
It was 2017, the first year.
So we took it over July 17, and that's when we had to start the audit. So we audited in 17 through our EDW, and then that one was so far behind because we couldn't get all the financial information. And I don't think I filed until 2019. But it was supposed to do 18, and that never got off. And then 19 never got off until 20. And then I remember actually sitting here, I think it was last spring when this came up, and I brought this entire conversation again. I'm like, am I going to be on YouTube still? And I emphasized 18, 19, 20, and 21. And it was my understanding that we was going to get 18, 19, 20, 21 done. But it wasn't going to get full. Because I think I remember asking Andrew that. And it said, yes, I'll take care of 18 to get us caught up. And so I left it alone until again it comes up again because the city's in on it. So it's to fulfill our state obligation. Because it's either we can do it ourselves, the state auditor can force you to pay them $60,000, $70,000 off. So, it's a cost that we just have to do. It's a state requirement.
Can you put this on our agenda for next meeting?
Yes, and actually, just with people I have talked recently, and if you don't have, you want to do the audit, you do the legal, or whatever, we will approach our auditors and our consultant to do the audit for those years, and then you can contact and pay them.
I'll contact CLA, and I've already spoken with BYA, still representing earlier, and then I can always reach out to all the EW since they did the last one, and see what makes the most sense for those years. Because this is more, you have to check it off the box.
Yeah, it's 6 months at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
So can we go ahead and have you guys contact your auditors and let's just see what it is?
To the end of the fiscal year.
Let's just go ahead and have it done.
Let me know.
12,
Although this is,
way more in depth.
yeah, years worth, so.
Well, it's probably gonna be 12,000 more a year.
More specialized.
Yeah.
Do you need a full financial statement audit, or would they accept a balance sheet audit?
Well, I think an agreed upon procedure is
Okay, well, you're
I
okay.
think they're called ADPs.
Okay.
Get the financial statement on it, they're going to order to do a minimum of ADP, and they're a lot cheaper. So, I say, it's usually a lot cheaper. Most towns do that. Like most of the small towns we represent, they do the AEP, because they don't have the money to get an audit every year, and then like every 3 to 5 years, depending on financial resources, they do a big.
So, in order to expedite this process, and make it happen sooner than later,
remarks by staff or board members?
One thing that I couldn't get out fast enough because he started on that big paragraph. Okay, so it talks about Mangum's operating in ARPA accounts. Is that the two you were saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so is that reserve fund, is that in the ARPA account? That's where it's been held? Okay, and that's the one by the cover?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been hearing around a lot about having to do audits on the cover money. Is that something else, something different there? that you
No,
have to do
same
that?
thing.
Well, I'd like to say I went to the hospital today to have blood drawn. Staff was amazing, as always. Everybody was so friendly. They make you feel at home. Also, on a probably a stupid note, I noticed that some pictures were moved to the front of the foyer or the lobby area. I thought it was awesome to see those pictures of the old Porter Hospital and some of that stuff. It just looked great. So thank you guys. You guys are doing an awesome job. The staff seems incredibly friendly and personable. So thank you. Okay. Moving on to new business. I know we do have a new business item that needs to be discussed. This was not actually being able to be put onto the deal because we just got ranked for the first time. So,
Yes, how'd you know? Yes,
Yes.
absolutely. So we did discuss the roof, and we had initially taken it off the agenda for some other items to discuss roof repair. But with the rain, we kind of have no choice. We got one of our rooms being completely flooded right now. So we put them back on the issue. Wasn't foreseen. It is now. We have two quotes. One from Monarch Construction Company. They're out of Alpha Pregnant. And they are for a quote for the final repair, correct, Mark? It'll repair the entire rest of the roof. 12-year material warranty and labor for 5 years is $39,900 for the Monarch to come do it. Again, they're out of Altus. And then we have another one from Cabe and Fox. They did the first repair. Their quote went up quite considerable from previous. That's why we're going to have to bring it back anyway before we got another quote. They are at $77,650. So it's quite a bit big of difference for us. Again, Cabe's done the original, and Monarch would do. I mean, if we chose whichever one, Monarch would be a new vendor.
What's the difference in the
So looking at McCabe, they're saying their material is warranted for 20 years, and their laborers for 5 years, just like Monarch. So 8-year longer material warranty.
Kate does a lot of like schools and stuff like that.
Well, if it's over $75,000, yeah. If it's over $50,000, then you're under the public hazard bid act.
What about
So
insurance?
you'd have to do it a little different. Those have to get a bid.
What about insurance, like our building insurance? Doesn't that cover roofs for damage from snow, hail?
I think they've looked at that before. I know we looked at it before, and it does not cover this roof.
But this item really, I know we recently got rain, and I hate to round anybody's curve. It's really not new business. It was just like that for a long time, so this wasn't reasonably unforeseen, so we can't really take any action. But if the bid price is $75,000, that means we will have to actually bid under the Public Competitive Bid Act, and it'll be bid differently. And, just don't actually quote.
So does the one vote trigger it, or can you just exclude that one? Well, we've got one quote for what, 39,000, but the other quote came over,
77.
what if we just throw that quote out?
Yeah, it has to be a one-to-one, because if it's 79,000 people are gonna do, that way you have to do your bid packet and bid specs identical, so you get the bids in and bid on the exact project. Now, to just tell you, my experience is on these competitive bids, if they're that big of
What was the name of this? Mark?
Monarch was
Monarch?
one of them. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
But I was thinking with my recollection, if the park was done, I got a lot of phone calls. Is that process last time? We're gonna have to use other income limit.
Mark, you can't fix this yourself?
There's no way.
So anyway, this needs to be an agenda item, we're talking about over 50 grand, and we need to get a bid spec put together. I will probably contact. I haven't done it here, so I put that bid spec together. What I would do. Because then you gotta have so much container, you gotta be bonded job. How much damage do you know?
A lot. You're probably going to be paying for a roof or a couple ceilings before too long. And a couple light fixtures.
And we have an ER room that's down.
Nope. It'll just move to, it's a secondary ER room.
There is an emergency workaround, but not when you're talking about doing the school last year and a half.
I don't remember it.
I remember it. 'Cause I remember,
Well, but that original, we were going to have to bring McKay back anyway because his quote went up. It was originally approved, correct? And then by the time we were ready to do it, his quote, his new quote had went up over the 10%, so we're going to have to bring it back. That's one of the reasons why we brought it back on the unforeseen. Again, that roof has never leaked there. It'll move somewhere else on a flat roof.
Yeah.
Move somewhere else. And then we're paying for an entire room to get redone. A ceiling, lights, OR lights if we ever wanted to go back to open that up to an OR. If you move it to somewhere else, it's going to make damage to other areas.
What about our CT scan?
Electrical, CT scanner. I can show you a picture of the bathroom where I'm glad I wasn't using the restroom. I'd have got hit on the head with a tile. I mean, so you're just asking for an employee to get hurt.
Patient. Yeah.
And then you got to think of mold. Then you got to think of mold and I don't know if y'all ever got rid of black mold before.
Yep.
You have to essentially tear your sheetrock out.
So can we call an emergency meeting about this for it?
you could do an emergency meeting. Yes, I mean, you could do an emergency meeting, and, I mean, there is a public, the problem is I understand that we're in emergency circumstances, but this roof has been, you were on the city council when we first came in. How long have you been on? 2 years. Yeah, you've been on 2 years, you had 2 elections since you got voted off. So 2 years. So that's what I'm saying, I understand, it's rains, you know, we've had issues. New businesses for things not reasonably unforeseen. We've known we needed a new roof for over 2 years, and so we can't sneak it under new business. It needs to be in the list of agenda items.
We're trying to take care of our patients.
I understand that,
That's we're not sneaking it under new business.
but that's the perception that people have, is all I'm saying. I mean, things that are reasonably unforeseen are things that just comes up. And y'all can disagree with me and not take my advice and spend $79,000 without it being a listed agenda item, without following the Public Competitive Bid Act. I'm telling you right now.
Do that?
Yes, you don't have to do that, but you're going to, but I'm just letting you know. That's my opinion on this particular issue, because we have been talking about this for more than 2 years. I agree with you. I think we have to have the bid, because I think if you have two completely, one of these bids over 2,000.
So how do we solve this going, like, how do we fix this going forward from now? If we can't do anything about it, can we start doing good stuff, and can we put it on the agenda?
Do that.
To meeting
You
or
can do that, but you can also call an emergency or special meeting and address it at one of those.
What about, can we call a roofer to come out to try to patch right there, just to fix the current issue?
It's going to be a really amount of job listed probably for us to go through, so that we have to have an emergency meeting for that.
But we've got to get the 3 approvals with the specs, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think the quickest way to do it is to have a special meeting for, I mean, you still have to have bids open how long? But again, there is an emergency provision in there, so we still just have to follow that provision. And after the first one, then we're able to process it 20 days.
I thought it was 30, but
I think it can be done as quick as that. It's just to have it like
yeah. And it's not even bad out. Like this isn't that bad of a rainstorm for us. Exactly. It's gonna leak constant for days.
So there has to be the specs and
And then it's gotta go to the county commissioners to do it have to pay off. Or not county, city.
Well, the city is what, next week?
and then they brought up to the city, yeah. Well, so from what I recall, we already had another part of it at that time, and that was as legal as ever. And that was the big 520. It was about 8 months of back and forth, and city and all negotiating. And I know, I remember that, I was on the other side of that. I would almost say that we probably need to figure out a way to do it. And the county can ask the city, but I would almost say we try to, I think we go further. I understand, I think